Why am I clamping this obviously broken stool together, and what's all this measuring about? When I actually get down to taking the thing apart, I come across some problems. Oh, and a breakage too. And what on earth is this? And this? Find out in the first episode of Footstool Repair. It's actually 2 years since I picked up this lovely footstool, but as you can see, the upholstery is shot, most of the joints are shot, and the polish is really looking pretty sad. But I love the look of this, and I'm going to be making a copy of it, and I'm also going to be restoring this one back to its former glory. So, keep watching. Hi, so today I'm going to be tackling the first stages on repairing and duplicating this lovely little footstool. So there's a lot of work to be done on this. Virtually every joint is loose, and obviously the top is in very bad condition. That needs replacing. But first of all, because I'm going to copy it, I'll need to take some photographs of it in its current condition. For measuring it, I'm going to be photographing it with some scales on there. And obviously, because some of the joints have come apart, before I do any measurements, I need to squeeze those back up tight if I can. So once they're clamped up, you see the legs move there. It also helps to square up the legs, so we get all those measurements right as well. Okay, so let's put that up in front. That'll give us heights and also widths. And if I come to the very edge of where the foot comes to, that's one good reference. Get that photographed. You don't need to use anything fantastic to photograph it. You could do it with a phone. I'm going to be using this DSLR simply because I've got one. I'm going to try and take the shots square on so we don't get too much distortion. I'll have it on automatic now because it's simply to get an idea of sizes. And I want a bit more exposure so I can read the scales. It's far too much backlight. So that's how we go. Now I'll simply repeat that, taking a shot from the side, one from above with the seat in, one from above with the seat out, and I'll turn upside down and take one looking up in this direction as well. With those reference photographs taken, we can now turn our attention to taking the thing apart. And as you can see, the tops of the legs have got some additional blocks here. They just finish off the look of the legs. They're screwed onto the rails, but they're also pinned into the tops of the legs. So what I'm going to need to do is unscrew them. Some of them are actually loose on the rail. They're also glued there. So some of them have come loose. Should better pull those off. When they're not loose, I'll try and separate the leg from the rail and the block, and try and ease the pins either out or pull them through the blocks themselves. So let's release the screws to begin with. Try and drive them in a little bit and then ease them out. I'm going to lay them out on the table in the positions they've come from, and then in the areas where there's no finish on them, I'll put some locating marks just so I keep them together. And that block's still glued on. One of the things you can do for this is to apply some warm water. So got a kettle of warm water here. Just moisten a cloth off. And just apply some moisture to the joint. So we'll leave that for a bit and come back to it later. What you can also do is you can use a syringe, some warm water on there, and just apply it along the joint lines. Don't worry too much about the finish. We're going to have to refinish this, so any marks that come because of the water, they'll get sorted out later on. There really is quite a large pin in this corner, which makes me think this has been repaired in the past. The block's still fixed to the rail, but I should better pull that pin out. Let's put a bit of protection on with some leather. Yeah, it's slightly larger than I would have expected to be in the originally built piece. Now, it doesn't always go smoothly. I was working on this corner block here, and what I've done is I've split it away from the rail. But that's a nice clean split, so when we glue it back on, we'll have plenty of glue surface area for that to be reassembled. So it's all but that block off. That block, I can't pull the pin out easily, so what I'm going to do now is take the legs off the rails. And these are actually really loose, as you can see. They'll probably pull apart just by hand, but what you can do is you can use, you know, a dead blow mallet like this to tap around. Or if you've got a pair of clamps like these, they can often be reversed so that you can use them to push things apart. So that's what we'll do. So if I put that down there between the legs, up nice and close to the rail, pump the clamp, and you can see it pushes it apart in a nice controlled way. Now it's best to try and remove these square, so if you can get something on the other side to push that apart, that'd be great. What I can do here is I'll be able to put another clamp down in this section and push apart there as well. I've eased this side apart a little bit. That's going to put a splay on it this way, so I need to ease that a little bit. In actual fact, probably not going to matter too much with this because the joints are so loose, but it is worth going around and gradually easing each side out. And you can see how easily this one's coming apart. So that's got this tenon out. That one's already slightly out. So if I come back to this side, okay, so we've got those off. As I say, most of them are very loose anyway. And I've just noticed that I'm looking too carefully. I can just see a pin that's been put through the side here. So clearly that corner was repaired. Somebody's pinned it through there. So almost like a pin tenon basically. So I'm going to have to get that out. I've taken an even closer look now, as well as somebody having driven a pin through from the outside to pin the tenon. They've also pinned in through the corner there, through the tenon, through the rail, and then into the leg from the other direction. So that really is going to be very tricky to get apart. I'm probably going to try and remove a bit of material around the heads of those and try and pull them out if I can. I've ended up doing, I've excavated a little bit away so I could get my side cutters in, but they weren't touching it at all. So a bit more, I was trying to get a tack lifter in, that wouldn't budge it at all. Pliers, I went for these pinchers, I had to extract quite a bit of wood to get those around it, still wouldn't move. So what I've done is I've drilled either side of the pin. In fact, I've drilled 3 holes around the pin, and now finally I'm able to withdraw it. It's still quite tight, and you can see it's a finished nail. It's rusted in there and it just wasn't going to come out. So that's made a real mess, but I've kept the face, the perimeter of the face all intact, so I should be able to let something in there, and hopefully with the finish you won't really see it. So the head of the pin, I don't know if you can see that, the head of the pin that I saw through from this side, excavated around that little bit, got it with the pincers, and unfortunately the head snapped off. So there's still a pin in there, but I'm hoping now that I can pull it out. A little bit of wiggling, and here we go. That's coming now. There we go. Yeah, and thankfully the end of that pin didn't go very far into the cheek of the mortise. I really can't emphasize how important it is to get the old glue off before you re-glue something. So I'm using just a utility knife blade on this end grain, and you can tell when the glue comes off. The glue's very white and sticks together. When you get into the end grain, you tend to get just dust, and obviously it's the colour of the wood. So we'll clean up all of the blocks where they attach to the rails and the legs, and also all the tenons where I'm using a card scraper to get that glue off. We want to avoid taking wood off if we can, because we want to keep the joint as tight as possible. If we do end up taking wood off too much and the joint's loose, then we can glue on a shim of wood and then refit the joint. Scraping off old glue's bad enough, but having to watch it must be even worse, so I'll get this done before the next episode. Cheerio!